new category of questions, supporting example type of questions. In this, the author of the passage would have used some examples to illustrate or elucidate or support his statement. What you would be required is to identify what the example was used to support. So let's illustrate with example. The question would look something like this. The author mentions the hourglass and the sundial as examples of what? Go to the bit of the passage which has these keywords. There you have it, hourglass and sundial. So you read that bit. For this reason, civilizations highly developed in other respects had the most primitive means of measuring time. And of course, a colon usually indicates examples being listed, the hourglass and the sundial. So they were primitive means of measuring time. Keep your answer with you before you even look at your answer options, right? So they were primitive means of measuring time. There I have it. Now I go to my answer options. Symbols of highly developed civilizations. Now, I did read something about highly developed. So, highly developed civilizations. For this reason, civilizations highly developed in other respects had the most primitive means of time. So, these two were primitive means of time, of measuring time. They were not symbols of highly developed civilizations, just misleading out. Primitive devices for measuring time, primitive means of measuring time, looks good, keep B. C, devices rendered unreliable by the weather. So let's see whether around this area there's anything about rendered unreliable by the weather. These devices were approximate and inexact and were often rendered unreliable by the weather. Yes, but these are check. Was the hourglass or the sundial, were both of them rendered unreliable by the weather? Is it mentioned? But we know that the hourglass will not be. It's more likely the sundial, if it's cloudy or if it's dark, will be rendered unreliable by the weather. So both of them would not be examples of devices rendered unreliable by the weather, and therefore that's wrong. And then D, devices that represented conception of time. Conception of time is mentioned here. So let me look. What is said? What is being said? In no characteristic is the existing society in the West so sharply distinguished from the other earlier societies, whether of Europe or the East, than its conception of time. So this is talking about present day societies, whereas these two are talking about highly developed societies which did not have good means of measuring time. So I know D is also out, and therefore the answer is B. Question number 2. The author mentions abandoned chicks, became sick or injured in the wild, are partially sighted or missing flippers as examples of. So what are they supporting? What idea are they supporting? I need to go to the passage and see where all this is mentioned. Abandoned chicks, abandoned as chicks, became sick or injured in the wild, are partially sighted or missing flippers. Let me read that part. I'll actually start reading from the beginning. Few animals are able to grab the attention and affection of humans, quite like penguins. Aptly coined, the little penguins are the smallest of the species in the world, standing at only 30 centimeters tall and weighing up to 1 kilo. The National Aquarium of New Zealand is home to some of the best of these tiny creatures. So, the NA of New Zealand has these tiny little penguins. Whether they were abandoned as chicks, became sick or injured, are partially sighted or missing flippers due to getting caught in fishing nylon, the staff at the National Aquarium of New Zealand are dedicated to saving their lives. So this is talking about the penguins you're likely to find in the National Aquarium of New Zealand. Right. So I'll keep that much information with me and then look at my answer options. A says, the only kind of injuries that are seen among the penguins of the National Aquarium. These are the injuries. Has it been mentioned in the passage that they're only kind of injuries? Be wary of these kind of extreme words. No, I would not take that as the answer because it's not mentioned that these are the only kind. See, extreme words, unless they're supported by the passage, if they appear in the answer option, you would normally view it with great caution. B. The kind of injuries that the staff at the National Aquarium probably have to deal with looks nice and wishy-washy. This is the kind of answer the SAT likes. Would keep this. C, the type of injuries that the penguins incur in their natural habitat. The word natural habitat has come here. Once they are sent back to their natural habitat is what is being mentioned, not the type of injuries that the penguins incur in their natural habitat. That's not being cited as an example. Misleading, out. Next, the type of injuries that are common among the ones that never fully recover. The never fully recover is there, but what are they talking about? Once strong enough, they are sent back to their natural habitat or to find a permanent home in the comfort of the aquarium if they never fully recover. So the two options about the penguins which are found in the National Aquarium, it's not to do with the injuries. Therefore, D is also out and the answer is B. Question number 3. The reference to the mayor of Zurich in the passage is, so I'd go to the passage. Where is this mentioned? The mayor of Zurich. So I need to read that part. At the time, chocolate was a sign of luxury and was mostly used to make hot chocolate for nobility or to impress new visitors. In fact, so and so the mayor of Zurich was served a cup of this delicious drink when visiting the Grand Place of Brussels in 1697. Right. Now, let me look at so he is being mentioned as an example of a nobility or a new visitor who would have been offered hot chocolate. Right. So let's see what A is saying. An example of the type of new visitors who came to Belgium. He's not being, sorry, he's not being mentioned as an example of type of new visitors who came to Belgium. We don't know whether he was a new visitor or he was a nobility. So I would take it with a pinch of salt. I would worry about this question. So I would eliminate it for the time being. An exception to the norm of visitors to the courts of Belgium, it certainly isn't easy to eliminate. An example of chocolate being a mark of luxury used to impress visitors. So the reference to the mayor of Zurich in the passage is an example of, well, let's read this passage from the beginning. Back in the 17th century, when Belgium was still ruled by the Spanish, explorers brought cocoa beans from South America and introduced them to the Belgian community. Right, we're talking about cocoa beans. At the time, chocolate was a sign of luxury and was mostly used to make hot chocolate, right? In fact, and then for hot chocolate for nobility or to impress new visitors. In fact, so and so the mayor of Zurich was served a cup of this delicious drink when visiting this. So he is an example of a visitor, we don't know of a new visitor, who was served this luxury drink, right? So it's an example of hot chocolate being a mark of luxury used to impress visitors more than, so the reference to the mayor of Zurich is more a example of chocolate being a mark of luxury used to impress visitors than an example of a new visitor who came to Belgium. Preferable, right? So I would keep C. D, a sign of Belgium being the first user of cocoa. Did we see first user of cocoa? Cocoa beans or cocoa, anything from South America? No. They brought it. Belgium was still ruled by this. Explorers brought cocoa beans from South America. Nothing about them being the first users of cocoa from South America. So that's not the answer either. So by elimination, C would be the answer.